am so, so excited. This is one of the sweetest ladies, hands down. I met her. I don't even know how many years we've known each other. And we've been in the same industry for quite some time. And we just have so much in common. And I'm going to let her introduce herself because let me tell you, she has a presence in herself. But she is now on my podcast. I was on their podcast a couple months ago on the Incubator's couch. And let me say one thing. I am so jealous of their setup. It's amazing. But I do want to talk about a subject with her today. And I think it's such a needed subject. And it's going to talk about the importance of trusting your digital marketing expert. Now, we don't necessarily love the word marketing because we're more of a web designer, SEO expert, visual aspect, but allowing us to do our job for our clients so that we can do the things we need to do. So many people in this industry go to classes or go to seminars or workshops and they come back to us as marketing experts and they're always asking in questions, which is fine. But sometimes like just to save a little bit of money doesn't necessarily good for your business. And so, but before we get into that topic, let me introduce you to an amazing woman. So I'm going to let her take the mic because she is definitely a professional at this. So let her do her thing. So introduce yourself and tell us all about you.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Carla, for having me on. I am honored to be amongst the people that get to come on your podcast because it's been going well. You've had quite a few people, so I'm honored to be a member of your group of people being on the podcast. As she said, I'm Kanique, and I am the owner of Komposition LLC. It's a web design and videography business here in Huntsville, and we've been in business for 13 plus years. 13 years, y'all. That's a long time.
That's amazing.
Yes. And my background was in computer information systems. That's what my bachelor's and my master's was in. And the whole web thing, I just kind of fell into it. And I realized that I absolutely loved it. Loved it so much that I made it a career. I made it my business. And since moving to Huntsville, I've made it full time. And when the pandemic hit, my husband couldn't resist. He had to come on and join the business, and he handles the live video strategy side of the business. So we do web design, we do videography / live video, and that's what we do. I'm a mother of 2. I have a boy who's oldest, he's 13, and I have a girl that's 1 year younger, 12. And they're both almost as big as me. It's crazy.
Yeah, they were taller than me when I was there. I could not believe it. Yeah, I felt very short.
Yes, it's crazy how quickly they grow. But that's just a little bit about me. I love all things web design, marketing, that kind of stuff. And I'm excited to talk about that today.
Well, I have to say that when I don't know what it is, but like when we do get to see each other or around each other, because you're very busy, you're in the community.
Yeah,
way more than I am. Yeah. Well, I just think you're when it's hard to be in that industry, you always have to pick and choose the things that you want to be involved in. And
that's true.
You've got a core of that in your pocket, and so, but I also think that you stand out because you're just, when you walk in the room, I think you're known for what you do. And I think that's important. Sometimes, when you get into business, it can be confusing about what you do and what you offer. And I think that for someone like you, you know exactly what you offer and you stay with it. You don't deviate from that. And I think that's so important. Now, your husband, I have to say, it is amazing himself. So you guys are like this great team.
Yeah, it works so well together.
You do. It's like you can see that, and even in your videos together, how well you mesh up. And I think that knowing that you have that is so special. And I think that that's a wonderful thing to see. And it's really I love watching your videos, and your interactions with each other are fun. And
we try to have fun.
Yeah, I know. I think it's so inviting. And I think that what you're doing for people when you're doing those things, it's so educational too.
It is.
They're so full of stuff that you almost have to watch those videos a couple of times because there's pieces in it that you missed the first time.
Yes.
So I think that
and there's multiple levels to what people are saying that you're like, oh, I didn't get it on that level. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So going back to the topic, before we get really into the topic, let's talk about the longevity of our industry. And you talked about your degree in CIS, which is the same as me as well, CIS degree. We have a programming background.
Yes.
We probably lived in the programming room during college, right?
Yes.
But we also know that we understand that we were a very few women.
Exactly. Yes.
In those classes during that time. I call them the jocks of the room because always the guys were they always knew everything.
Yeah. In my graduating class, it was just the two of us out of all the men, 2 women.
Yes. I think that's exactly right. I think there might have been 3. I think there was one girl that was in class with me, and then she left and transferred out, and then it was just me and this other woman. And and I took my classes at night so I could work full time because I was paying my way through college. But when we think about the beginnings of our career and where we're at now, how beautiful is that? Because it's like an awe. I think sometimes I look back and go, how did I get from point A to point Z?
I know, because when I think about it, back in 2003, when I graduated, that was around the time when it was very difficult to get an IT job. People who've been in the industry for over 20 years, they were also being laid off. So it was us that are just graduating and those that have been in the industry, both looking for jobs, and we could not find jobs, at least good paying jobs. So to look from where I was getting like barely much of a salary to where I am now, where I have my own business and it's successful and it's going, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
God is
I think the balance
blessed.
of all of it's just like, when you look at the balance of that, it's like, how did I even do it?
I know.
I think, and honestly, when I finally graduated, I graduated in 97.
Okay.
So when I walked across that stage, I had no job. Like, there wasn't a job. I was like, okay, what do I do with this degree? And I was fortunate enough to hold out, but I mean, I could have just kept in the industry where I was working at the time. I could have stayed there. I had a good paying job doing something completely different than my degree. And I thought, no, I went to school. I got this degree. And how do I use it? And how do I get in? And so I was fortunate enough, a guy that I knew from the IT department, because I was trying to get in the IT department too. They would not let me in. They were like, close the door on me.
Really?
Like, no. Yes. And so I was like, okay, I want to wait this out. And so fortunately I got a phone call one day and it was like, hey, there's an opportunity for you. And I was like, I'll take it. And it was software implementation. I was doing accounting and manufacturing and point of sale software. And this is right before Y2K. And I started building computers, and I was the only girl tech. And I just I just absorbed it in. And so I was geeking out. I was like, that's cool. How does this work? So every time I got an opportunity, I just took it. And they're like, hey, you want to go on the job sites and learn how to put networking?
Take it. Yes.
Take it. I did it. So, I think that for me and you, because we're so fortunate to see the evolution of where we're at today, people would just like, what happened?
I know.
Because I do remember that first time when I bought my computer, the dial-up was, I can, you know what I mean? You can kind of hear the sound still.
I was just going to say, I can still remember the sound.
Yeah, AOL, thank you.
Yes.
So, so the longevity, to know that we are still here doing what we do, how incredibly respectful of that is. Totally just, that's where you look at people go, okay, you have survived many ups and downs, not just one or two, many ups and downs. And being a mom, balancing a business.
That too. Yeah.
How did that feel for you? Like, when you decided to go full time running a business, how nervous were you?
I was so nervous because now we would pretty much be running on one income until I could actually get the business to where I want it to be, where it would completely be paying for itself. So that was nerve-wracking. But on the other side, I did have more time for my children. And I think that was one of the main reasons why I was like, I'm done with the 9 to 5. I'm done with side hustling my business. I'm going to put into this full time, because then I have more time for my children. I remember rushing home from work, begging to leave early for my daughter's kindergarten graduation. And oh my goodness, I was so frustrated. So frustrated. Things did not happen the way I wanted to be. And I was like, I cannot go on like this.
Yeah.
I cannot rush through things like this because this is her graduation. I need to have time to make it a big deal for her. And also realize that this work thing is not for me. I needed to have time for my family, and my children are young. So I think that was what pushed me to say, you know what, I'm going full time in my business.
Yeah. Who were you working for at that time? Were you programming at that point?
I was a webmaster for a university here in Huntsville. Mm-hmm. And my hours were 8 to 5:30 p.m. No flexibility, had to be at the desk, no work from home, nothing like that. Yeah. So I think I worked there for 2 years, and I was completely frustrated.
Yeah. And not everybody can do that, right? Mm-hmm. Not everybody can quit a job and
that's true.
Start a business. Mm-hmm. And if you're in a business or a side hustle, mm-hmm. trying to get away from that 8 to 5, be prepared to know that it's not as easy as you think it is.
It's absolutely
and
not.
You're going to sacrifice yourself mm-hmm. and time. Yes. And before you know, you'll have 13 years in or 25 years. I look back and I'm like, I cannot still believe that 25 years has passed for me. Yeah. Like it feels like it was yesterday for me. But you also have to understand that we've sacrificed a lot too, because we don't always have time for friends and the extras.
That's true.
Right?
That is so true. Mm-hmm.
You have to pick and choose the things. Does mm-hmm. it fit within my timeline?
Yeah.
You have to understand that the balance of that has got to be very difficult for some people, especially women that are trying to be a mom.
Juggling all the things.
All the things.
All things.
Yes, all the things.
And working the odd hours because my schedule is crazy. Like I work early in the mornings. I take a full break in the afternoons because you got to do school pickup. You got to go do this with the children, all these other things. And then late at night. So my schedule is very crazy. Yeah. So people just need to realize your schedule is going to be a little wonky when you're working for yourself. And you put in a lot more hours when you come to look at it.
And, I think too, you have to understand the balance of those meetings mm-hmm. and those events that you attend and how important it is, because I think back when I first had my children or my babies at the house, mm-hmm. I didn't really have the time to network. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to network, and I didn't know the importance of it. But I also I had to figure out the balance of that to be all those things. So I did just enough, mm-hmm. just enough to pay my bills, to take care of my children. That was my main goal at that time. And for 10 years,
and
that's
were
true.
You still married at that point with the mm-hmm. children?
Yeah. For a little bit.
So you're juggling that as well.
Yeah.
You're juggling a husband, juggling children, juggling a job. It's a lot.
Yeah. And so for you, it's just like we talk about that. And we do say we were in a male dominated business at that time. Yeah. We had to swim to the top and prove ourselves on a constant basis.
Yes.
How did that make you feel in some ways when you decided to quit that full-time job to transition to the business side? How did that make you feel about that?
You mean coming out of a male-dominated industry? It was empowering because now I am the CEO of the business. Like, I don't have to answer to my boss, who was a male. Like, I got to do me. I didn't have to answer to anyone else. That was very empowering for me. I loved it.
Yeah. And the fact is that when you do that, in some ways or another, it's all in your hands.
Yeah, it is.
And it's your responsibility to mm-hmm. know that this is the way you run your business. It's now all your full control.
Yeah.
But then you don't realize how mm-hmm. much work it is until you get into it and you're like, whoa, this is. Yeah. So I think your experience is well respected. And I think the topic that we're trying to talk about is the respect of those experts mm-hmm. and people going out. Mm-hmm. It can be clients or potential clients going and taking and their business is in cyber networking, or their business might be in human resources. Their business is totally different from the marketing aspect. But they go out and they'll attend these workshops or attend these educational classes, and you know what I mean? And so it confuses sometimes, I think, the client to a certain degree.
Yes, it does.
And then it's an overload of information because they don't know how to process it.
Yeah, because they get the information, but how do you apply it? They don't quite understand how to do that.
Yes. And I think that sometimes they get frustrated and confused, and allowing the marketing expert that has proven themselves time and time again to say, these are the things you should do, whether it's the web designer, right? Yep. The digital marketing aspect is understanding and respecting those experts in that field.
Exactly.
Does that make sense to you? Because I know it happens to me quite often, or they'll send me a newsletter. Hey, Carla, these are the new things, and here's your trends. The trends for 2024. I already know what they are. You know what I mean? I appreciate it.
Sending me that, I know that. Yeah. So the very first episode of the Incubator's Couch, I gave my story of a client that I worked with, and what we're talking about today is exactly what happened with that client. This client, she's completely not in my industry, nowhere close. She's in a completely different industry. And she would bring stuff to me and say, why don't you do things this way? And I'm like, but I'm the expert. I know what I am talking about. I'm trying to guide you in the right direction. Yeah. Yes, this information, it has value, but let me implement it in the correct way. It should be implemented. Because on the real, she did not understand what she was asking for. And it was completely incorrect how she was trying to get it implemented. So yes, I get that a lot with customers. Like, let me be the expert. Let me guide you in the best way of implementing this thing you want to have done. And let's go from there. And that was one of my very worst clients ever, because it was a constant battle of her trying to tell me how to do something. And I'm telling her, no, that is not the correct way. Let us do it in this way. And I think eventually we just had to part ways because we just kept butting heads, where she was thinking, she knows what she's talking about. I'm like, no, that's not how you do it. This is how you should do it. Yeah. And wow, it was an interesting experience, to say the least.
Yeah. And that's hard because you can forecast the business outline for that, because a lot of times I just did a website review with a client. Most of the content they gave me was from a brochure. It wasn't pre-written.
Okay.
And they started going through. So they've got a person that knows a little bit about marketing, but not enough, and has a whole team of people. I'm on this phone call with them, going through the site with them. And they started taking things off the website. I'm like, no, there's a reason. There's a reason. Well, we want to take the blog and we're gonna link it over to the LinkedIn account. No, don't.
Oh my God.
You're starting yourself up with like failure, and then you have to go, all right, this is the reason why, and you feel like you're educating them on the reason why you designed it the way you did, to convince them that you were doing it right in the first place. And so after you explain it, they come back and go, yeah, you're right. Well, I was right in the first place. So never start off in a failure. Start your company and your website design in a positive aspect.
Yes.
And you're going to thank me later. And then if you take this stuff off, you're going to call me. I kid you not. You'll call me, and like 2 months later after it's launched, why are we not being found? Why is this not working? If you would have just listen.
Let's listen. Yeah.
Listen to the experts.
We went to school years for this. We know what we're doing.
We were before Google. I think we were a little bit smarter than them sometimes. The measurement of that is like, Google, stop playing with us. We know what we're doing.
Yes.
We're the designers. So yeah, we talk about with the experts and understanding that respect and I get it. Clients are going to ask questions and you can fulfill that.
Fine. Yeah.
But sometimes like you don't always know that we're doing things behind the scenes.
That's true.
Right. And I don't have to explain to you every detail of that.
Yep.
Does that make sense
to
you?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll ask so many questions like, why are you doing it that way? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? How you do that? Just believe in the process.
Yes.
Just believe in the process. The process. That's the key.
The process. We know what
it's
we're
consistency
doing.
And the process.
Yes.
And be patient. Just hold your horses a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So we talk about that, and we talk about, education, is important to be educated, but how much is education damaging to potential business? How much information it's because I think sometimes they get too much information. It's an overload that they tend to overthink the process, and then they overcalculate their goals. In some ways they expect more for less, or you know what I mean? And so I think there's a level of knowledge that definitely needs to be respected. And we bend the rules of like, I'm going to let you have so much of your request, and then I'm still going to go over here and still do the things that is necessary.
I totally agree. Like some stuff, like even that client, some of the stuff she asked me for, I'm like, some of the stuff she said, do it this way, but I'm like, not quite doing it that way, but I'm going to make you think I did it that way.
Yeah. I'm going to finagle this around so that it looks, it's satisfying to your needs. But I also talk to clients a lot of times. It's like, what is your return in value? What does it even look like?
Yeah.
Because
you have to know that.
But especially I think majority of them don't. They don't. They never really sit down and they go, I have all these ideas, but what is the return in value for that?
Yeah. And I always ask them, what do you want out of this thing that we're doing right now? That's the one thing I ask them, especially in our discovery call. What do you plan to accomplish out of this? What is that return on investment that you're looking for?
Yeah. And we sometimes, I think people forget that a return investment can be just someone liking a post.
Yeah.
Or sharing it. Or commenting on it. Because social media is just not a fun thing to be anymore. Sometimes it's like it's harder to do social media now than I rather could do website design. They make it more and more difficult.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do.
Yeah. And so I think that's where that's trust and value and expertise that we provide to do that. That I think that's such a aspect of, so if you had to mention, what are some questions you think clients should ask us as marketing experts? So, sometimes they don't even know how to ask the right questions, or if they come at you too many things, you're trying to figure it out, that value for them, but you have to figure it out for them too. But do you you're straightforward with your clients. You tell them, right? There's no bull between the lines kind of deal.
Yeah. I'm very straightforward with them. And I always tell them no question is too small or is a dumb question. Ask the question and I will answer it to the best of my knowledge and ability. So I always encourage, ask me the questions. I will answer them as good as I can.
Yeah. I think, and I'm sure that you ran into this before too, but a lot of times even after all these years of being in this industry, we still have to prove that we are capable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just because we don't have amazing, 15 people on a team doesn't make us less value.
That is so true.
We're just being selective about who we do the work for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't you feel that way?
I'm very selective in who I work with. Yeah. And if I do not feel like it's a good fit, I introduce them to someone else that can probably take on their project.
Yeah.
And I like it that way.
Yeah. I think that doesn't, and it feels like you've got the freedom. Back in the day when you were struggling, you would take on those clients.
Yes, you would. And out of starvation, like, I need this project. Yes.
I need to buy some food today, or I need to pay my electrical bill, and that's what we did. Right. But today it's like, it's controlling of what's important to us.
Yes.
And not always getting caught up of like, because I did there for a while. I thought I wanted a huge team of experts behind me that I could train, and then they could do things. And then I realized, I didn't want to do that anymore. I was like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, a lot of people will ask me like, don't you want your business to grow? Do you want to have your name on a building, that kind of thing? I'm like, absolutely not. Yeah. I am very comfortable where I am right now. And I'm not looking to have a huge team or anything like that. I'm very comfortable where I am. I am at a point where as long as my bills are covered, I am happy with how things are.
Yeah. Oh, well, and the other thing is you are capable of, I don't think people really understand is that even though we take on projects, we are faster than the majority of the 2 people or 3 people you put on your team.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
So by the time you train them to do something, you could have already done it 3 times faster.
Could have done it already. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things for me as well in bringing other people. Like the amount of time it will take me to train someone to do it the way I do it. It will take so much time, and still having to juggle the current projects I'm working on. I just don't have the time.
Yeah. So I think that's so important. And when we talk about those things, that's the things that, you know, we take the time out, and it takes a long time to really train somebody.
It does.
Now, it's smart to create SOPs, standard operational procedures. Got it. But still, you've got to have someone that's dedicated just as much as you do, because it's hard to balance the team aspect and then still over here trying to perform the perfection that you are, right? Because you want to give your clients the best product possible, where they are proud of. I don't know, but do you ever get nervous when you're presenting a project to a client? Still today?
Yes, yeah. I literally just sent off a project 2 days ago, and every time like I need to hit send. I'm not sure. Let me look at it one more time. Let me make sure it's the way it should be. Okay. Hit send. I get nervous every time because you never know. Like, I feel like I'm putting myself out there when I'm doing a design for someone, and you really don't want to have that rejection. Like, they do not like what you've done. So that is always at the back of my mind. Like, I really hope they like it.
Right. And I think that sometimes, like when we hold our breath and then they come back going, I love it, you're just like, so worth it. Then every once in a while, you'll get those clients going, I do not like this at all. And you're like, what? And it's very small, like that very percentage is only like 2%, maybe 1% at that most. Yeah. And you're like, wait, I didn't pick your brain right.
Something happened where we did not communicate properly, or something like something went wrong, because that doesn't typically happen.
Yeah, that does not typically for us. For sure, because we've been doing it for so long. You can actually, I don't know about you, but majority of the businesses that you meet, right? What surprises me on how much they don't know when it comes to website design.
That's true.
And how much time it does take to put together this project.
Yes.
And why it's important to have a outline of development that works for your business.
Yes.
And that process is not snapping your finger, buying a template, and making it live.
I keep telling people the actual design of the site is the last step. You've got to put the work into figuring out who your target audience is, thinking out what your branding is going to be, what message you want to convey, like those things. Like the content, you've got to work on all that stuff first before we even get to the whole web design side of things. And because if that is not done well, then you're not going to get your return on investment on the site. So I'm like, work on that. I always tell people when they come to me, they're like, I want to get the site done. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm like, no, let's work on this first. Once that is done, then we can go ahead with the design of the site.
Now, I have a question. I think that you and I both are probably going to say yes to. But back in the day when we started doing website design, this is before Google, we were lucky to get 3 pages or 5, maybe 3. I think we were lucky to even get the basics. And we were doing really good because I don't know about you, but I did some black hat techniques and I did some stuff I shouldn't have done. But, we tested the boundaries of Google before they started putting up all these rules. And then social media came into factor, especially with Facebook. It changed the model of our business a little bit, where people didn't concentrate on the website as much.
That's true.
They wanted social media. But then it was hard to sell the social media to people that were just getting into websites because they didn't understand the return in value in social media. But then when they got into it, they were like, so all these people come to you and they're, what's the first question they'll ask you? Do you do social media?
Yep. That's what I always get. Always.
Do you do social media?
Always.
And what is your response to that?
Well, for me, I don't do social media now. I don't. That's not a service I offer. It's not what I offer at all.
Yeah.
At all. But I usually tell people, okay, I don't do social media, but do you have a website?
Yeah.
Do you have a website?
Yeah.
If you understand the value of a website, then the social media would be probably the next other thing. Is not the first thing you should be asking for.
Yeah. It's probably the third or fourth thing.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. And I think people just don't understand the value of having a website because it gives you credibility. When I'm looking for a business, the first thing I'm looking for is their website. I am not
the trust factor for sure.
Yes. Do you have a site? How credible are you? Do you have a domain? Is your email
Are you
address
real?
at your domain? Are you real?
Are you real?
Are you real? And then I'll go and see, oh, they have a social media account. Okay, great. But the website is the first thing I look for.
That's right. But I got really caught up into both. Where I was doing design work, social media. Social media started taking control over my website's design work over the last 5 years, right?
Okay.
Now I'm like, I'm a digital marketer. That's my forte. I'm an SEO digital marketer. And I'm like, and people would ask me all the time, what do you do? What do you do? I'm like, I do everything. I've done everything. But then I start thinking, maybe there's things that I need not to do anymore in my life. And because I don't think people understand what we call the method of madness that we're in at this point.
Yes.
Of trying to balance where you should be putting your efforts in. But what is strange to me is that how the full circle is coming back over to website design.
It is.
And the digital marketing aspect.
Yes.
And that they're starting to see that there's realness on the Google side of things versus on the fake side of things on social media.
Yeah.
Because we know that social media is the story. And how fake can it be?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And the way social media is constantly changing their rules. Yeah. 1 second, Facebook pages are like number 1. And then the next thing is groups. Like if you're solely focusing on social media, then when they change their rules, then people are not seeing your posts anymore. But with your website, you're not having that issue at all. Yeah. You have way more control over the information you're putting out.
I think that the transition started happening when we started seeing these interruptions on Facebook, when things were being shut down, and certain people started realizing
it can go away just like this,
right?
Just like this.
And they don't. I think that the realization of the light bulb came on is like, we don't own our social media.
No, you don't. All those pictures you're uploading and content, whose servers are they on? It's not your server.
It's not yours. And you're over here going, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. You'll get that phone call. Hey, I need to get my website. I've been telling you.
Get the website done.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, like, Google is huge. Like, Google gets, like, so much traffic.
Well, we're talking about 92% of the website traffic is Google.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Hands down.
And then you got Bing and Yahoo.
Yes.
It's like 1-2%.
I know,
but
right?
what I'm saying is that, but I think Microsoft, and we can go into those subjects later, and maybe those are things that we could do later, but we also are seeing this leverage of Microsoft and Google in this battle of AI.
Yes. Oh my goodness. AI is like changing the game on so much.
It's huge. It's too big. Yeah. But it can be, in some ways, it depends on how much you want to use of it too. And then you've got voice search. And so when you don't even have your website up to par, and then you're over here in social media world.
Yes.
How can you add all these other things?
I know.
In these components?
Yeah.
So it's got to be done in steps. It's like breadcrumbs, right? Little pieces of breadcrumbs.
Yes.
But if you don't have a website, especially website experts like you, right? If you don't follow the rules, then whose rules are you following?
That's a good question.
Going to these classes and people telling you what you should do.
Taking
and here's you got
random
a marketing
classes.
expert saying you should be doing this the whole time. And you're over going, I know you're laughing inside you. You're like, get off the phone. I told you. You know what I mean? I know you're doing that because I find it. I'm like, I told you.
They don't want to listen.
Why didn't you listen to me?
I know.
Right. So I know that you and I could really talk about so many different topics, especially in this industry. And maybe that's something that we should talk about, maybe doing a little side podcast.
All right.
We're smart. Let's do it. I want to know a couple things about you, being that you are an incredible industry-driven woman, right? Do you ever feel guilty of trying to balance it all? Do you feel like sometimes like you're in the middle of this big project, but yet you've got something going on with your children, or you've got to spend time with your husband? Because listen, you and your husband, you see each other all the time. You're in your incubator couch program videos, and he's amazing. By the way, I'm just going to throw that out. His video has just, it's like when I first met him to where it is today.
Yes, it has. He
has leveled like 2 or 3 level 4 or 5. He's like level 10. I'm just gonna tell you, level 10. He just got it.
Yeah, he did. It's amazing. In the matter of 3 years, he's gone from 0 to like so much. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, he took a huge jump.
Yes, he did,
and he did it during a time when things were really unraveling at the time. So, my question is that do you find balance? Do you also feel guilty being all these things?
Yeah.
How do you separate that? How are you and still feel like, because you look so cool, like a cucumber. Like every time I meet you, you're just like, you're so just put together.
Oh, thank you.
I want to know your secret.
I think me deciding that this is the business I'm going to do and nothing else has really taken the stress of trying to do these so many other things.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what work I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And when it comes to feeling a little guilty, there are times I've felt guilty, especially when I have a deadline and I need to get that project complete. And, I pick the kids up from school and I'd love to spend some time with them in the afternoons, but I have to go back to my desk just to get this project out. Like that, those are the times where I feel extremely guilty. If it was up to me, I would be done with everything by the time I go to pick them up from school. And then the evenings would be completely free. We'd just be hanging out as a family, not doing anything. And I really try my best. If I have to go back to my desk, I try my best, like the time that they're up before bedtime, to not be stuck at my desk. And sometimes I'm guilty of being at the desk, but sometimes that happens. But I really try to make time for them. We have a game night on Tuesdays. No phones allowed.
That's awesome.
Put the phones down. Or even like this past Tuesday, all of us were in our bed, just watching old YouTube videos of the kids when they were babies, just hanging out.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, we try to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what was the last question?
Just how you keep yourself so cool as a cucumber. I just want to know, like when I say that, and I'm being honest about all of that, is that when I see you, you're just so well. You don't look frazzled. I've never heard a negative anything out of you, because sometimes you meet people and the first thing they want to do is they want to unload all of their garbage, and you're just sitting there going, I just was asking you how you're doing. But you have this way of just like being so solid and mindful about what you say and how you act. It's almost like you are just so, like, when to turn things on and when to turn things off. So do you feel like you've got that down pat and practiced that for a while? Or do you feel like there's times where you get in your car and like, I'm gonna lose my mind?
I would say it helps. What helps mostly is my personality. I'm
I love
just
it.
very level-headed, very cool. I am not the one that's on the spectrum that's like super high. I'm very mellow. So that helps a lot. But I think what really helps the most is that time in the morning where I get time to wake up, don't touch the phone. I pick up my Bible. I read my Bible. I have my worship. I pray, and I just ask God, guide my steps throughout the day. Put me in the path of the person you want me to meet for that day.
Oh,
that's one of the things I ask for pretty much every day, especially when I go out on Thursdays. That's another thing I do. I try to schedule all my networking stuff one day of the week. So everyone knows Thursdays, do not email, do not call. I am out networking. So that's how I kind of keep my sanity. Thursdays are my days outside. Other than that, I am inside working and taking care of the kids and that kind of thing. But yeah, my time with God is what really gets me kind of centered. And then I can just go about the rest of my day after that. Yeah. And that really helps. And then, just realizing that people are people and try to see how I can help the person God places in front of me. Yeah. Like, how can I help you today is really how I try to look at things.
Yeah. Well, I had to say that you gave me chill bumps when you talk about things like that, because I don't think people really understand the level. You have to have a certain level. And there are breaking days. There's days when it's hard. Mm-hmm. But you gather it back up and you get it together. And time blocking is so important. I didn't know how to do that back in my first, we didn't. And I know you're probably going to agree with this. We didn't do that in the beginning. This is learning behaviors. True. It's things that you transition into
over time.
That makes it easier. If you're questioning why it takes you so long to do something, or why am I not able to finish something, or why am I not getting this done, and if you feel frustrated, that's when you sit down and reevaluate your time and reevaluate what you're investing your time in, or the people that are sucking it out of you.
You've got to cut them off. And I have learned to do that.
And it's hard because you do want to be a part of their lives, but those people that are just constantly sucking energy from you, you have to cut the cord. And it can be sometimes family. And I really hate to say that sometimes. Yeah. It's like there's only so much of you, because if you want to have a successful business, mm-hmm. or if you really want to invest in really just quitting that 9 to 5 so that you can do this full time, you have to have some sort of balance to do that. Yeah.
That's
because as women, and I'm not knocking men, but mm-hmm. as women, there's so many different pieces of us that sometimes we forget our own name.
That's so true. We're juggling so much. We're juggling a lot. And our mind is constantly going like, what do we need to do next? What needs to happen? We're constantly doing so much.
I'm already thinking
we are constantly
like that now.
Balancing things.
Yeah. The balance of that I think is so important. So I think when I talk about the balance, and you just, when I meet you and I think about all these things, the aspect of your business is so solid and so respected. So, and I love your website. Like,
thank
you. It
you.
represents you 100%. And it's exactly, when you go there, you know exactly what you're serving for your clients. It's like totally just well done, right?
Thank you.
I'm not saying that when you go there, what service that you're providing. So before we get off the podcast, mm-hmm. I want to say thank you so much for sharing your day with me.
Thank you. And let me get a little second to talk about you for a little bit. Since the time we first met, we just clicked. And I don't know what it is, but we just clicked on like
I'm a likable person.
Levels. On so many levels. And typically sometimes you will hear like when people are in the same industries, they're not like close, they don't talk, they kind of shun each other. It has been the complete opposite for us. We're in same industry, and we just get along so well.
Yeah.
Absolutely so well. And I just love what you do, because I've seen what you've done. You've done so much.
Thank you.
And I'm just grateful that you invited me to be on today.
Oh, Well, I do want to say I'm not one to every once in a while I'll brag or something. But it was very hard for me, and being that I've always been behind the scenes doing things. A lot of times people didn't know that it was me doing that, which is
and
fine.
I found out something else you did today that I didn't know you did.
What?
There was something we were talking about I went to the ambassador thing today, and somebody mentioned your name, that you did something, and I was like, oh, she did that too. I need to remember what it is. But I had no idea.
Yeah. There's a lot that's, there's things that I don't always tell everybody what I do. And that's only because the client was always first.
Okay.
And in respecting that. And a lot of times I didn't always share it because somebody out there that is in the same industries as us.
Yeah.
That are always trying to figure out a way to take that from us. And so I was one of those people that for years, like, the intentions were never really truthfully honest. And so, but now I'm like, I'm going to be me and I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
But it's really hard and it's very rare to find people in our same industry to respect each other.
Yes.
Right? You do you and I do what I do.
Yeah.
And there's a line, because not every client is our client. Every person you meet is not going to be a customer. And there's always going to be a need for someone that needs something that you definitely do not want to do anymore.
Exactly. Yes.
And you want to trust the value of what that client needs to give them someone that's going to hold them and do the right thing.
Yep.
But it's very hard to find those kinds of people.
That's
you know
true.
what I'm saying? So I think that's the reason why I think you and I get along so well, because we are experts.
Yes.
We're not newbies.
We're not.
And there are people that have come work for me that have sucked that from me to go other places.
Wow.
But that's okay, because they'll do their thing on the limited information that they got.
Yep.
But I still enjoy doing what I do.
Yay.
You know what I mean? And I think that's important. Well, I want you to tell everybody how to connect with you and find your website. So just give us a little bit of outro of who you are and what you do, and going into connecting with you today.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, again, my name is Kanique. My business is Komposition LLC. We are a web design and live video strategy agency. You can find our website at yourkompositionwithak.com. And you can also find our podcast show that we talked about at iCouch.show. Definitely check us out. Watch the episodes, subscribe to the podcast. And you can also, I'm going to talk about Kirk a little bit. You can also find him at kirkrnugent.com. If you want to get into live streaming, he can help you with that. So that's a little bit about us.
I have to say, power couple, 100%. Impressive. And you know what? I'm lucky to meet you guys and come and be, a big fan of your staging of your podcast, and your setup's amazing. I want y'all to come over and do mine too.
Just let us know.
Okay. So come on, let's do another podcast. I would love to talk to you about different topics and express ourselves a little bit more. But thank you so much for coming on our podcast today, and such a blessing to meet you and be a part of you, and amazing individual. I'm just going to brag about you too. So, but let me tell you, you're a special individual. So keep doing you. Keep being that expert. Keep designing, and we'll see you again real soon on our podcast.
Yes.
Hey everybody, we're going to talk about this recap today, and I have to tell you, Kanique was just a joy to relate to the expertise and the evolution of where we're at in our marketing from the beginnings to what it is today is so refreshing. It's a hard find to find people in that industry that you can relate to and understands where you started as a female in this industry and where we're at today. So in the beginning, it was like really, really hard to find our footing, to figure out where we're at. We were never guaranteed a job when we graduated college. And then we were trying to figure out where we want to keep that degree going. We stopped and decided to become business owners. And doing that really gave us the empowerment to really figure out what we wanted to do with our industry, and so much respect for she and I to know that even though we're in the same sort of field, we respect each other in that profession, and we're still approachable, knowing the fact that we respect each other in that industry. So hands off for that, because listen, let me tell you, it's a very rare find. So, and the other thing is that we wanted to talk about was the experts, being the experts in this industry, that we have to continue to prove ourselves even after these years of being in it. We still have to prove as business owners that we know what we're doing, and we know how to take a business and modify and change it and make it bigger. So even though you come with us with all these things that you learn in some class or this workshop, we still know we have the knowledge to take you to a different level, because sometimes you may not be in the right direction, and it's our job as experts to put you on the right path. So believe in your experts, ask the right questions, believe in the people that you're doing your job with, because those are the people you want to work with.